Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Pigskin and Burnt Ends. I'm IndyCarTim, your host. Welcome into the program. Welcome into FanStreamSports and College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. We're here to talk about Week 5 of the Texas-based college football programs. And actually, this week, we're going to expand a little bit because it was a very, very slow week for Texas-based college programs. Lots of bye weeks from the big programs as they get ready for Week 6. We will recap Week 5 for those who played, and talk a little bit about Week 6, who's got big games coming up, why it matters in the grand scheme of everyone's goal to make it to the college football playoff this year. I need to remind everybody, though, first, before we get into the meat of the show, as we do every week, to remind you that this episode of Pigskin and Burnt Ends is sponsored in part by TicketSmarter. The 2025 college football season is here, and we know you're looking for the best seats at the most competitive prices, and we want to make sure you take advantage of TicketSmarter and their mobile app. We know more than ever that buying college football tickets online requires trust, and TicketSmarter has partnered with more than 100 universities and 24 conferences as their official ticket resale marketplace. They've also partnered with ESPN Events as an official ticket resale partner. Purchase your tickets quickly, securely, and at the best prices on the secondary market with the TicketSmarter mobile app or at TicketSmarter.com. We've got two great offers for our listeners. You can save $10 on your purchase of $100 or more on TicketSmarter by using the code LWOS10. And if you spend more, you can save more, because if you spend $300 or more and use the promo code LWOS20, you'll save $20 off your purchase. And these codes are not just a one-time offer. Use our codes over and over and over again this season, every time you go see a game, and save for the best selection of seats to this year's biggest games. Don't wait. Get the best selection and pricing now with TicketSmarter. And remember our codes, LWOS10 and LWOS20. Think smarter. TicketSmarter. Thank you, TicketSmarter. Now, boys and girls, it was a slow week in and around the Texas college football world, with a number of programs having bye weeks. Texas A&M, SMU, Texas Tech, the Sooners up to our north, the UTSA Roadrunners were off, the Texas State Bobcats were off, but we've still got some important matchups here over the week, and one local school, and when I say local, I mean right in my backyard, that holy crap, what are they drinking in the water in Denton over there? With the North Texas Mean Green 5-0 for the first time since the 50s, since before even Mean Joe Green arrived to town at the old Fouts Field. But let's start the show off with Connor Wigman and the Houston Cougars as they best the Oregon State Beavers, a struggling Oregon State Beavers team, by the way. They are winless on the season. They're 0-5 now after a 27-24 defeat at the hands of our Houston Cougars and Connor Wigman. It did go to overtime. The Beavers had a shot to break that winless streak, but up in Corvallis, Ethan Sanchez kicked a 24-yard field goal in overtime, and Houston rallied from a fourth quarter deficit for a 27-24 victory over Oregon State last Friday night. Wigman threw for 270 yards and two long fourth quarter touchdowns for the Cougs, who are now 4-0, their best start since 2016 when they opened with 5 straight wins. Malik Murphy threw for 201 yards and a touchdown for Oregon State, which now falls, as I mentioned, to 0-5 on the season. The Cougars trailed 24-10 in the fourth quarter, but Wigman threw a 27-yard touchdown pass to Steven Johnson to close the gap with just 5:59 left. Houston tied it with Wigman's 50-yard pass to Tanner Koisel with 3:40 to go, and it was a kind of a surprise come-from-behind win, the way the Cougars could not move the ball. They could not score for the majority of the game. Houston coach Willie Fritz commented after the game of how much of a hard win it was. He noted they didn't play very well in the first half, particularly on offense, but somehow they put it together in the second half and mainly in the fourth quarter when the team needed it the most. The Beavers got within field goal range with 5 seconds left on the clock, but backup kicker Cameron Smith's 46-yard attempt was blocked, and the game went into overtime. Oregon State's 4th-and-1 attempt failed in overtime before Sanchez's game-winning field goal. Kozoil said, I mean, nothing brings a team closer than a game like this. Now we've looked at each other in the face of a loss and brought it out to a win. We're going to come back stronger, end quote. And that's kind of the first time that Houston's been put in this type of situation in a game, being down that much and needing a last-minute fourth-quarter comeback, and it builds character. Weigman's been in that situation before at A&M. He certainly has the skills, has the know-how, has the knowledge to bring a team back like that. He just hasn't been faced with that in his time in Houston yet, and now you've got past that. I think it was good for Coach Fritz. It was definitely good for the team to experience that, and yes, it does bring you closer together when you get a scare like that, and you're able to pull it off for sure. But, you know, overall, man, Houston's performance, they've got some things they need to look at here, most definitely heading into week 6, as they're going to have, you know, they'll what's the old adage, look in the mirror, look yourself in the mirror to figure out some deficiencies here. There wasn't finger pointing. This isn't that kind of team. There's no finger pointing. But as you prepare to play number 11 Texas Tech this weekend, man, you're going to have to play better than you did against Oregon State and come up with some answers ahead of Texas Tech, because Texas Tech is firing on all cylinders. They are also unbeaten. They are playing way better than you are right now. And just that's look, and it's at home. You have a home game against Texas Tech, so you will be in Houston. That'll be good for you. But right now, the way this team performed against Oregon State, it certainly has some question marks. It certainly raises some eyebrows, and you definitely have some answers that you need to find to questions, especially on offense. So Houston moving forward again against Texas Tech. That'll be a good one. Texas Tech up to number 11. They were off, as I mentioned, this past week. So plenty of time to prepare for the Houston Cougars, Connor Weigman and Willie Fritz. Another local, we're supposed to have our transition. I have like transition music, and I don't know if I'm going to, or not music, but like sound effects. I'm going to play with it and see if I can somehow put this on the video as well. But when we change topics, we're supposed to do this. I don't know. What do you think? Y'all let me know if we like that to change topics, or if I should just go ding or just click a bell or something when I change games and change teams. I don't know. We're still kind of new to doing this, talking about so many teams on one show. I certainly implore you, if you have a better way for me to transition from subject to subject, team to team, program to program, let me know. Should I ding? Should it be a bell? Or are we okay with, I don't know. Let's figure something out. You guys let me know. At IndyCarTim on all social media channels. Or if you're watching the video, just comment underneath the video in the comments section and let me know what you think we should do, or if anything, to transition to break up the monotony here of my voice for certain. Let's move on now to let's move on now to the Baylor Bears as they improve to 1-1 in Big 12 play with a 45-27 win over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. One of our few teams up to the north here that are playing this week, and man, it just wasn't a good day. The Oklahoma State Cowboys as a program, of course, are in disarray, huge disarray right now. Getting rid of Gundy after so many years. It was their first game without Gundy, and it did not go well. 27 points offensively, though. That's certainly not anything to laugh at. But, man, defensively, the Cowboys just had nothing to answer for Baylor in the 45-27 win. Sawyer Robertson throws 4 touchdowns in the spoiler in the first game without Gundy on the sidelines. He also threw for 393 yards. And, again, the first game without Gundy in more than 20 years. And I'm sure it felt weird for the players. It felt weird for the fans. But you know what? That's the game, right? It's the business of the game. That's college football. and you deal with it and you move on. And their search for their permanent coach, is it going to be Doug Meacham? Their interim, who knows? He's fairly new to the program. They may seek out somebody with a little more experience, maybe from one of those smaller conferences. I'm sure there are names that we will get into next week when we see some of those. And I've seen some now, but I don't want to, they're in the middle of their season. I don't know how much they're looking to replace Meacham here in the middle of the thing. They'll probably wait till the offseason to make any decisions or to take anything seriously there. And that's how we should address it too, right? Robertson threw each of his touchdown passes to a different player and also ran for a score. Josh Cameron caught 6 passes for 98 yards for the Bears, who had 612 total yards of offense. Baylor coach Dave Aranda took nothing for granted coming into the day, especially with the Cowboys trying to turn their season around and get a win for Meacham. In his first game, Dave Aranda said, quote, "It's very, very difficult place to play. The crowd's right there on you, and when the crowd has energy, it is a loud spot," end quote. And yes, it is a loud spot up there in Stillwater. I can attest to that personally. Zane Flores passed for a career-high 232 yards, and Trent Howland had career highs of 84 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground for the Cowboys. Again, 1-3 overall, 0-1 in the conference now. So despite the loss, though, you have to feel good. It was kind of a significant improvement for the Cowboys. When you look at their previous losses, 69-3 to Oregon, 19-12 to Tulsa. The Cowboys did post a season high offensively of 448 yards. Meacham said after the game, quote, "It's a testament to Mike building a culture here, picking the right kind of guys that will fight through adversity and come together as a team. And I think that I was really impressed with that part. Had a lot of fun. They were having fun. And that's really what this is all about," end quote. Well, Doug, that's real easy to say when you lose and when your program's kind of in a shambles. I know you just took over the job, but that's not really what it's about. It's about winning, and you didn't win. But at the same time, let's celebrate the performance. It wasn't a bad offensive performance. Again, we talked about defensively, though. But, yeah, let's build the kids up. I don't like that statement. That's really what it's about, because it's not. But, maybe that's part of the problem up there. Maybe that was part of the culture Mike was building up there, that it's just, hey, let's go have fun. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. Let's just go have fun. Of course, there's no way that Mike was doing that. I speak in jest, but again, it kind of maybe gives you a little bit of an indication that there's a little bit of a problem up there in Stillwater. Oklahoma State showed early that it planned to open things up offensively. The Cowboys scored their first points of Meacham's tenure on a double pass. Receiver Sam Jackson, the fifth, completed a 26-yard touchdown pass to tight end Josh Ford that tied the game at 7 in the first quarter. Robertson threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half to help Baylor take a 28-20 lead at the break, despite Oklahoma State outgaining the Bears 349-285 by the half. Howland added it to his career day by throwing a 13-yard completion, then running it in from a yard out on the next play to cut Baylor's lead to 35-27 in the third. But that was the closest that Oklahoma State would get on the scoreboard. The Cowboys were conservative on offense in their first 3 games, but under Meacham, as I mentioned, they showed early that they were going to open things up. They took more chances on Saturday, and they got positive results from those chances. They had 5 passing attempts by non-quarterbacks, 4 from Jackson and 1 from Howland. Jackson completed 3 of 4 passes for 46 yards, and Meacham implied that Jackson will continue to throw the ball. They're making that part of their offense. He said, quote, "Moving forward, if I'm on defense and he's on the field, you better back up a little bit or base up a little bit, because that kid's a weapon," end quote. Hey, there's always the element of surprise, right? When you can't beat them straight, just the element of surprise, right? So whatever it takes to win, I'm okay with that. For the 4 Baylor players who caught touchdown passes were Cole Wilson, Michael Trigg, Kobe Prentice, and the tight end Klopfenstein. Always wanted to say that name on the air, Matthew Klopfenstein. Prentice's 73-yard touchdown grab surpassed his full game total for yards receiving. So now what's up for Baylor? Well, they appear to have the offensive firepower now to compete in the Big 12, but the defense was a little bit leaky, as it has been all season. The Cowboys, of course, showing that they have a pulse and that could be enough to satisfy the fans in attendance who were active and loud throughout the game. They just needed change, right? Up in Stillwater, you just had to show something, and that wasn't going to happen with Gundy. The message had become stale. His coaching had become stale, and I don't know, it might have been a couple games too late. I know you don't want to move on from a guy super early in the season like that, but you had to have signs in the offseason that this was coming. Here, just a couple years removed from competing for a Big 12 title, by the way, against these Baylor Bears. But, man, it's just a bad look for the Cowboys up in Stillwater. But as I mentioned, we had most of the teams here in Texas that we normally talk about off. So we're going to expand things just a little bit. For the Baylor Bears, though, moving forward, how at 3-2. They are preparing now for Kansas State on Saturday. It's an ESPN Plus game for the Bears at 11 a.m. And then if I can open my schedule for your Oklahoma State Cowboys, as you know, technology is always a great thing until you need to rely on it and you need to depend on it. And it's just not always a great thing when you need it to be. As the Oklahoma State Cowboys, again, 1-3 overall, 0-1 now in your Big 12, prepare for their next game as I continue to stall here on Saturday at Arizona. And that is a TNT game that will also be on True TV and over on HBO Max. That is 2 p.m. Central Time at Arizona. So things not getting too much easier for the Cowboys or the Bears for that matter. But as we transition, I like that. Maybe we'll stick with that. We have to get into the hottest team in the state of Texas right now. It's not the Aggies. It's not the Cougars. It's definitely not the Longhorns. Not the Bears, not the Mustangs. Maybe Texas Tech might have something to say about this. But overall, how about those 5-0 North Texas Mean Green? Or is it those Mean Greens? I really suck at plural things in the English language when it's worded this way. They're the North Texas Mean Green. Green, I guess, could be singular or plural, as I digress. 36-22 over those South Alabama Jaguars, 1-4. They were 0-2 on the road. Hawkins scores 3 times to lead North Texas to a 36-22 win over South Alabama, and an impressive 5-0 start. Caleb Hawkins' third touchdown of the game ensured North Texas' 36-22 win on Saturday. The Mean Green are 5-0 on the field for the first time since 1959. That's not including 1977 when North Texas began 5-0, but only after a season-opening loss to Mississippi State that was later forfeited by the Bulldogs. So, yeah, that doesn't count. This is a legit 5-0. On the field. Hawkins had 140 yards rushing on 16 carries with 2 scores, 78 yards receiving with a touchdown. Hawkins had 140 yards rushing on 16 carries. I just said that, didn't I? He has 7 touchdowns in 2 weeks after scoring 4 times in a 45-38 overtime win over Army last week. His final score was a 27-yard run with 2 minutes remaining, during which he broke multiple tackles. That came after the Jags closed to within 6 when Kentrell Bullock scored on a 2-yard run to cap a 10-play, 87-yard drive with 6:11 remaining. Hawkins scored on a 6-yard run to give North Texas a 14-7 halftime lead, then took a screen pass 68 yards early in the third quarter for a score. Drew Mestamaker was 14-26 passing for 234 yards and a score for the Mean Greens. And he also ran for a touchdown. Miles Coleman also scored on the ground. Bishop Davenport, 17-34 for 195 and a touchdown. He also threw an interception for the Jaguars. He also ran in a score. Devin Voisin had 97 yards receiving on 5 catches, and Rod Gibbs also had a touchdown catch for the Jags, which has lost now 4 straight. But the North Texas Mean Green are the topic of conversation, as they should be here locally in North Texas. And I don't mean just North Texas because that's the school, but geographically here in North Texas, in an area that includes TCU, that includes SMU, But yeah, there are good things, and Mestamaker is also the topic of conversation after, if I have heard this correctly, not ever having started in high school or at any level of football. He finally gets his chance in Denton, and he is making the most of things at 5-0 now. The Mean Green 3-0 at home. And it's, man, if you have not caught a Mean Green game, if you are, I guess, potentially a fan of, another program, whatever, that's fine. If you want some exciting football, go check out a North Texas Mean Green game. They're on TV pretty much every week. And if you're local, go catch a game there at Datku Stadium. They had 16,000, almost 17,000 on hand last week. Not nearly enough watching the North Texas Mean Green. Go support your Mean Greens. It is a good brand of football, and it is fun to watch. Just a high scoring offense, and for the most part, a pretty smothering defense as well. Again, they're not quite the Texas Tech Red Raiders, but if you're in the area here, that is a good brand of football. Get behind the North Texas Mean Green, unless of course you're not in the you cheer for another team in the American Conference. So go do that. They are 5-0. Navy, of course, in your American. Let's go over the American Conference standings here in the FBS 1A American Conference, or the American, I think is how they like to brand themselves now. Navy, overall 4-0, 3-0 in the conference. Memphis, 5-0 overall, 1-0 in the conference, along with North Texas at 5-0, 1-0 in the conference. Then you have Tulane, 4-1, overall 1-0 in the conference. East Carolina, 3-2 overall, 1-0 in the American. And then you have the also rans here. South Florida, those Bulls finally falling this season to 3-1. They have not yet played a conference. None of these teams that I'm about to mention have played a conference game yet. Temple 2-2 overall. UTSA, the Roadrunners, also off this week, are at 2-2. Birmingham 2-2. Charlotte 1-3. Florida Atlantic, the Owls, 0-1 in the conference. 1-3 overall. Then you have Tulsa, who, of course, just famously knocked off Oklahoma State for one of their 2 wins. They're 2-3 overall, 0-2 in the conference. And then Army, 1-3 overall, 0-2 in the conference. That American Conference is something to watch too, man. There's some good teams. That is an entertaining conference for those of you that strictly choose to watch the Big Four, I guess, now, the Power Four, since we don't really have a Pac-12 kind of yet, again, like we're supposed to. Starting next year? I guess they're supposed to come back with some new members. But that's neither here nor there. We don't really care about any of that. Moving on now, as we say goodbye to North Texas and South Alabama, let's check out those Texas State Bobcats. As you know, we don't pay just a ton of attention to the Texas State Bobcats, who were off this week, of course, but I did want to mention them because I don't think we mentioned them last week. 3-1 overall. They're 2-0 at home. They had a big win over the Nichols Colonels, 35-3, the week prior. And they're another high-powered offense that we need to pay attention to. I know the Nichols Colonels aren't, a traditional college football powerhouse, but they're, in the overall, in the Sun Belt here, Texas State 3-1 overall. You're right there in the thick of things. Again, after being off this week, but we had to throw a little love at the Texas State Bobcats for sure. As they're continuing their successful season so far. I know it's early. It's early for all of these schools. But we talked about some of the, I forgot to do this. We talked about some of the programs that were off. Of course, the Longhorns, the Aggies, as again, we depend on technology to show us things. But we had the Longhorns, the Aggies. Of course, Texas Tech is off. We talked about their upcoming opponent, SMU, the Oklahoma Sooners, the Roadrunners, and the Bobcats. We will talk a little bit here about week 6 and the Texas Longhorns coming up. Look, everybody's proclaiming that I really hope you listened to last week's episode. I hope I wasn't too harsh on the Longhorns. I hope I wasn't too harsh on Arch. Look, I'm a Manning family fan. I grew up a Saints fan. Archie was my favorite quarterback growing up. And of course, so I followed the great Peyton. Even when he went to Tennessee, we were all disappointed. But then Eli brings us back in as he goes to, the Rebels like his dad. So I'm a Manning follower. I'm a Manning fan for sure. But when we proclaim Arch to be, and I'm using finger quotes for those of you not watching the video, back, can we just slow it down a little bit? All right. 55-0 against Sam Houston State. He scored on that first rushing play, and then he sort of taunted and flexed over that poor player laying on the turf underneath him, which, by the way, should have been a penalty. You're not allowed to do that. I don't know why they didn't call a penalty, but whatever. It's fine. Didn't have any bearing on the game. Arch knows he shouldn't have done that, according to him. His mom got onto him for it, and good for her, as well she should. But there's much more difficult tests coming up for Arch and the Longhorns than Sam Houston State. So, for instance, Saturday, back in SEC play. Now, there might not be a more difficult test than you had in week 1, and we see how that turned out for Arch and for the Horns. But you've got Florida on the road at the Swamp. Now, I know Florida's been up and down this season. This is still Florida. They should not be taken lightly. They hung with Miami on the road. And then you've got Texas OU weekend down at Fair Park at the Cotton Bowl. Number 5 OU coming in. And OU is rolling right now. So, look, things are going to get much more difficult for the Longhorns and for Arch. So this proclamation that, baby, he's back. Woo, Arch, yeah. This is who we thought we'd see. Okay, it was Sam Houston freaking State. All right, can we just tap the brakes a little bit? Again, I'm pulling for Arch. I hate the Longhorns, but I'm pulling for Arch because he's a Manning. But no, he's not back. Number one, he can't be back because he wasn't ever really here. He has not had a great season. He is still learning on the fly. So even if he does have a great game against Florida, we can't say he's back. We can say he's arrived. Finally, here's the Arch we all know and love that we knew was in there somewhere. But yeah, let's just not, man, I don't know. You can't just say he's back, but let's give him just a few minutes. All right. To do something for everybody. As we continue to peruse the college football schedule, get into a little bit of, I guess, Aggies talk, as they are the sort of the talk of the town in Central Texas, more so than their little brother in Austin, Gig'em. Yeah, I'll go ahead and phrase it that way. I don't even want to do that. Like, we're not even related. They're just another school down the highway. They're 90 miles or so away. But the Aggies, of course, have Mississippi State coming up on Saturday. That is an SEC network game, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Not, every game, I don't want to say that it's not a test for the Aggies at 4-0, especially after what you did to Notre Dame, what you did to Auburn. And I know the Auburn was a 16-10 game. I get it. But the Aggies did something at Auburn that impressed me, kind of like they did at Notre Dame that impressed me. And that is they were able to finish. All right. How many times have we seen the Aggies, whether it's against the top 5 opponent at home or on the road like Notre Dame, be in a position to win that game and then blow it at the end? That's kind of what we're used to. Same thing with Auburn, an unranked opponent, but it's an SEC game on the road. Or at home, against Auburn. And you had a chance against an SEC foe to be there and win it at the end. But normally, we're used to watching the Aggies somehow just blow it, right? And lose that game towards the end. They're not doing that this season. And I don't know if this is the Mike Elko effect. You know, when he came into College Station, what did he say? He wants to change the culture of the program without throwing his former boss, Jimbo Fisher, under the bus. But, you know, Elko said that the culture around the program was bad. And there were a lot of players that agreed with him. Even the players that transferred out mentioned how bad the culture was in College Station with the Aggies as a program. Well, Mike Elko has apparently come in and made some sweeping changes. I don't just mean the roster. But these guys all believe they can win now. And they should. This is a really good Aggies team. And we'll see where it goes. But, you know, with the win over Notre Dame, and now I'm telling you that win over Auburn, I know they're unranked. That impressed me almost as much as the win over Notre Dame, just because of what I just said. That we know that we're not used to them winning those games. I don't care if they're on the road or at home. It doesn't matter. So Mississippi State coming up for the Ags. And then you've got Florida in College Station. Both those games at home, by the way. Then you hit the road to Arkansas. They no longer play the Southwest Classic at AT&T Stadium like they did, I believe, for 5 years. Last year was the last year of the deal for that. So now they're going back to campus games. Excuse me. Then you've got LSU. It's at Arkansas, at LSU, at Missouri, a big 3-game road trip for the Aggies before you wrap things up against South Carolina at home. And then you've got, of course, the Longhorns after Thanksgiving on November 28th. So, look, this Aggie season is impressive, but it's still very, very early. I've seen signs of maybe great things for a great season, and that's really all you can ask for because, again, we've been disappointed so many times. But, man, maybe Elko's got this thing going. Marcel Reed, if we can keep everybody healthy, please, can we just not let injuries be a factor here? You know, for anybody, you don't want injuries on any program. The NFL is dealing with multitudes of injuries everywhere, and it's affecting the style of play. It's affecting the quality of play. You know, the poor Bengals lost Burrow, and their season appears done. You just paid your receivers, and you paid Hendrickson for this year. You don't like to see that at any level, and definitely not in college. Let's just keep everybody healthy so that you get the best brand of football and the best matchups from week to week. So you guys let me know what your favorite part of last week was, what you're most anticipating coming up in week 6. Love to hear from you there. Who are you cheering for? Who do you got? Look, I don't talk a lot of gambling on this show. Not a huge gambler. I do talk gambling and lines and money lines and spreads and stuff on some other shows. If you guys would like me to get into that a little bit, just let me know at IndyCarTim across all social media platforms, or leave me a comment in the video underneath the video here on the FanStreamSports Dallas YouTube channel, or you know, anywhere you can find me. Just let me know. Let me know your thoughts on the show. Let me know your thoughts on the college football season, on your team, whoever that may be. And we'd love to discuss it right here on Pigskin and Burnt Ends. And again, I keep promising we're going to get into the Burnt Ends part of that. I was supposed to have a guest on today to talk a little bit about that, who had to cancel at the last minute. So we will reschedule that maybe for next week to get into a little bit of Burnt Ends, barbecue, and beer talk on the show. You know, again, in the interest of corresponding with one another, tell me what your favorite barbecue joint is wherever you live and why, and your favorite beer to pair with the brisket. Right here on the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. We appreciate everybody being part of this one. I am IndyCarTim. We will come back next week to wrap up week 6, discuss week 7. Did your team win or lose? What does it mean for the rest of the season? And we will go from there, boys. Until next time, we'll see you.